Remote work, homeschooling, and spending a lot more time at home are just some of the ways that we had to adapt during the pandemic. And it's all had an impact on our housing market. Now, in the peak of the pandemic, interest rates were low. Homes were red hot and selling fast, but the market has changed, going from hot to cold. So tonight, our investigative reporter, Andy Judson, digs into what exactly happened in the Sacramento region and what we can expect to come.
These homes that we're in now, yes, I sold one.
The pandemic was a wild ride for Sacramento's housing market.
When they went up originally in 2018, just before the pandemic, they were running anywhere from the high threes to the low fours.
Okay.
This one sold for $745.
Because we were all able to work from home, the pandemic brought the ability to live anywhere, as well as a demand for more space. And with that came competition.
It felt like a piranha feeding frenzy.
A frenzy that appraiser and housing analyst Ryan Lundquist describes as the most aggressive housing market he's ever seen.
Yeah, I think it's something that was unexpected and where the market went way above where it naturally would have.
Normally, he says, the market rises for about 8 years and then goes back down.
We were to that point, and then a global pandemic happens. Lots of people are thinking the market's gonna go down, or there were all these predictions, and then it did something that I think nobody expected.
It exploded.
Where we saw, exponential growth, prices up almost $200,000 within 2 years. That's really steep.
With wildly low interest rates, houses in the Sacramento and surrounding region were selling like hotcakes.
As soon as mortgage rates went below 3%, it was like a steroid was injected into the market.
In fact, while the market steadily grew for 9 years before the pandemic, it was nothing compared to the growth between March 2020 and May 2022. During those 2 short years, the median price of a home increased in our region by 42%, Lundquist says.
It was really about targeting higher priced homes.
Many used their equity, selling to buy bigger and newer elsewhere, like from the Bay to Sacramento.
And also, I think people focusing more on Placer County and El Dorado County, where homes are larger.
In fact, statistics show throughout our region, Placer County had the most newly constructed homes for 6 months straight. But things are changing again.
We've basically seen the largest increase, the sharpest increase in mortgage rates in the past 40 years, over the past few months.
In 2020 and 2021, 30-year fixed interest rates were here, below 3%. But in 2022, they spiked all the way up to over 7%.
Honestly, I didn't think it was going to almost daily change like that. That was okay. So how do I keep my clients calm?
Today they sit around 6%, which means interest rates are still double from where they stood during the pandemic.
It's completely changed the market. And so, earlier in the year, we were reporting really aggressive housing stats, massive demand, and then mortgage rates said, hold my beer. And we're in this market where I think, the honeymoon is over.
Over thanks to the Fed and the increase in interest rates to try and control the nation's inflation.
I've just been telling people it's time to believe that the Fed is very serious when they want to see spending decrease to get inflation under control. And when it's like they're targeting housing as the sacrificial lamb on the altar.
Some experts say the Fed's plan may be working, with the U.S. Bureau of Labor reporting the Consumer Price Index, a measure of changes in prices over time, rose less in December than November.
But with continued high housing interest rates, buyers simply just cannot afford what they could during the pandemic.
I started in March with one client where her buying power was $460,000, and now her buying power is $375,000.
Brian Ensminger felt this firsthand.
We were pretty close to should we continue to rent. We were seeing interest rates kind of come up and up. The availability was going down.
They were on the hunt for a home to start their family.
I would say, we toured north of 20 and probably put a bid in on close to 10.
His agent, Alyssa Mazoy, guided him through the process.
One thing that I advise my client is that let's focus on a monthly payment. What can you afford? in the area that you want to be in.
And after a 5-month search, they prevailed, making Brian a first-time homeowner just outside Natomas.
To be able to go in and get something at the range we wanted, with the ability to do what we want, really a perfect fit. For that to happen, I think it shows that it's becoming a buyer's market.
High interest rates and a fall in the average price of a home has changed the tune for those selling.
It's hard for sellers to respond, and I think that sellers were in the driver's seat. They had nothing but glowing headlines for years. They're used to buyers who are offering over asking price, waiving all the contingencies, and really saying that, where sellers would be in control.
But today, buyers like Brian appear to be in the driver's seat.
We were able to buy a home at the time in the place that fed our criteria. I think that's the best we could ask for.
I think buyers are in a place where they're, eyeing prices, and it's just more difficult to afford, so they have, time on their side, hands down.
Realtors across our region are seeing this firsthand.
Now it's going to take a little longer.
Now, on average, we're seeing 60 days.
An astonishing comparison to how fast homes sold during the pandemic.
Pandemic was a week.
Specifically, Lundquist data shows half of all sales in 2021 took 7 days or even less to sell. But that doesn't mean our market is easy for those looking to buy a home.
Some people look at 7% today and say, stop your whining, because I bought my first house in 1982 at 16%, right? The problem is in 1982, that house was $53,000. And so it's a totally different ballgame today.
That's why he says there's a 40% decline of those looking to buy a house within Sacramento's housing market. But come springtime, the housing market always heats up.
I think that's a spring thing too. Wow, we're having another child.
And as mortgage rates and housing prices trickle downwards, many are hopeful more buyers will come to the market. But you never know.
My crystal ball broke so long ago. It has duct tape all over it. And, let's remember that I don't think anyone really predicted the pandemic market that happened.
No matter the market, there's always people needing to move.
People getting divorced, people getting married, people needing a bigger house.
And realtors remain in the middle, helping both buyers and sellers, all while riding out our wild housing market.
Let's not look back to say during COVID that's the normal market. That's not. The life happens, you want to move, let's make it happen.
Take one buyer or that one seller and get excited with them about what you're changing their life.
I love that he said his crystal ball broke.
Right? It's so good.
All right, obviously Andy Judson is here with me, but when we come back, she'll have a lot more on what you need to know if you are looking to buy a home right now. Before the break, we took an in-depth look into Northern California's housing market. Investigative reporter Andy Judson joins me now, and you already know she's been covering this for years. And really, you've seen the changes not only before the pandemic, but now post-pandemic. Right. But for people that are really looking to buy a house right now, what should they know going into this market?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I actually took it to housing appraiser Ryan Lundquist when I asked him, what's the advice for buyers? And he said, as you saw in our reporting, it's turning into more of a buyer's market currently. So that means buyers should try to really get as much as they can from the seller. Ask for those repairs, ask your mortgage officer about getting the rate lower. But the biggest piece of advice he gave is if you're just not comfortable right now, whether that be with the higher interest rates or just that massive leap you have to take in buying a home, basically don't do it if you're not comfortable.
And what about people looking to sell their homes right now?
Yeah, I asked him about that too. And his biggest piece of advice was to listen to buyers. They're in the driver's seat right now. And with how crazy the pandemic was, a lot of sellers have this idea that their home is going to sell like it was then, for way above the listing price with 10 offers. But that honeymoon, as he called it, is over. So sellers really need to listen to the buyers and pretty much do what they say if they want to sell their home.
Yeah. Now, spring is right around the corner, and your reporting said that the market is heating up. What can we expect?
Right, yeah, the piece was called Hot to Cold, but that's the way the market really goes. It's always changing, so it's starting to warm up again as it does every year with springtime, but we're definitely not seeing the type of heat we were during the pandemic. So it'll be really interesting, Alex, to see how it changes and how it goes going forward this year.
Yep. And you already know, Andy Judson's going to be following
we'll
all
be
of it.
covering it here, yeah.
All right, Andy, thank you.